we want the show to last, kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you are live.
Awesome. Welcome everybody to another episode of Joe Knows. I'm here with Yaro Shtyha, and he is the owner of Yaro Tech. So,
Hi, everyone.
um, we will be discussing some technology and what Yaro can provide for you and your business. Um, I would like to start out by saying that when I first met him, we were talking and he said, let's, connect. And we were trying to pick a place to go. And he said, why don't you come to my office? A lot of people like coming to my office. And I was just like, all right, I don't, it's an office, whatever. But I was very impressed when I did go to his office, and, maybe you can go off of that. And
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I say that because I feel like my office is my basically marketing. Essentially, like I don't have any marketing budgets. I don't do advertisements. My business is completely based in referrals. But I do always prefer the meeting spot to be my office because it kind of shows you what I do versus tells you, because it's hard to put everything into words in terms of like all the services I do. Once you walk around in there, you can see like the extent of my reach in terms of tech.
why don't you explain a few of the larger categories of the services that you provide so people know kind of what you do for businesses?
Well, yeah, I work mainly with B2B. The ideally is once we go in, it's A through Z in terms of their IT infrastructure. So once we go in, it's something about cameras. But once we start doing their cameras, we can then pivot to their VoIP phone system. We can pivot to their software at the office. We can pivot to adding new workstations. We can pivot to networking the office. We can pivot to sound systems. Basically, you name it. If it's electronics, or if it's business products that involve tech, it just kind of pivots to everything. So essentially, one referral turns into a lifetime customer for us.
Yeah, so that's the best part, is having that A to Z knowledge, so that when somebody comes to you and they say, you know, I need a speaker system in my building, when you go there, you can notice and say, well, you know what? You called me for the speaker system, but I looked at your computer and it looks like it might be a little older. You might need to upgrade that, or, issue spotting, other stuff where they can, maybe they didn't know that they can upgrade that thing, or that some other aspect of technology was available to them that they could utilize for their business.
Yeah, absolutely. You get it right there. Well, another thing is I don't try to look for the problems. Usually what happens is I come in for one thing, and while we're looking around, they mentioned, by the way, we're having issue with this, or we were thinking about this. I never actually, like you said, say, oh, maybe you need to do this. I don't try to look for it because like 99% of the time someone will mention something else to me while I'm there without me trying to
I
pivot at
see.
all.
I see. Okay. What are some of the cooler things that you've worked on, or something that you were was something that you're proud of working on, kind of thing?
Well, it's a tough question because there's
There's a lot.
instantly I'm trying to pick the best.
Yeah,
The best thing is
it's
like
hard.
I'm running down like a catalog in my
Yeah.
head, and it's like what do I
And it could be something small
what do
too,
I pick,
because like
right?
for me, for example, okay, like I get really proud of my business card, my digital business card
Oh
that I
yeah,
created. I'm like, I created this, it works
it's
really
great.
well, nobody else has it. I,
True.
I get, and it's not like something extravagant, right? It's like, it's very simple, but it took me a while to like figure it out, make it work, all that stuff. So it could be something simple like that, that maybe you just got excited for doing it for somebody, or
Mm.
maybe the results were better than what you intended for some client or something like that.
Well, I guess I could pivot towards my other business, Safe Wash. So the idea came about with hand washing during the start of the pandemic, obviously, and washing hands was a big deal because that's the that's the main way people get infected by anything really. So the idea was I started working. An investor came to me, and his name is Bob Hover, and he came to me with this idea, and the idea was like at its foundation peak, just the beginning, and I started working out the bugs and working out the idea, like hammering it out, making it as perfect as we can come up with. And the fun part was designing that circuit board, designing that enclosure, designing. I came up pretty much with the shape of it, the 3D model. Then we did 3D printing for it, and we ran so many 3D prints to finalize on which one looks good. I have boxes of old, literally boxes and boxes of old 3D prints, like until we got the right shape we were happy with. And that journey of designing the circuit board, prototyping, so designing the circuit board, programming it, debugging it, programming it, debugging it, resoldering it, reprinting it, reassembling it. Million iterations later, we're happy with the product. It's in production right now. That was a really fun experience, and at the same time very rewarding. But the journey was the fun part.
Yeah, that's usually how it is, right? You feel like very rewarded by and proud that you came up with this, whether it's simple idea or not. And guys, the best part at his office is you can see all of the things, like how he said what he does. From my perspective, it brought me back to my college days where we had different areas to work on different things, right? Whether it's soldering circuit boards, or the way that his computer system is set up, or the hard drives on
or,
the wall.
or the
And
mechanical
yeah,
area.
yeah, the 3D printing. It's just really cool to go from one section to another. I mean, honestly, it looks kind of like, if from people's perspectives, maybe like a children's hands-on museum where everything is like there, where you can see the different areas, but it's his workspace, and you can see that he can do all of the stuff from A to Z in that workspace, whether it's doing the hardware, the software, the combination of the two, coming up with everything all in one spot, being able to go from one section to the other section to complete the whole project. It was really, really cool to see.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people that came through my office, would you say they call it, the first thing that comes out is it's organized?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the first thing they
it's
say.
it's organized, and but it's in a logical way, right? Where it's like you have this area where you're doing soldering, and this area where you're doing the software, and this area where you're doing, so it's organized in a logical way where everything is segmented for all the stuff that you are capable of doing. So it was really cool to see it like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically the other word I use instead of office sometimes is I say let's meet at my workshop,
Yeah.
because it comes down to it is a workshop where you do have these organized sections for the mechanical engineering stuff, the electrical stuff, the software stuff, the 3D printing stuff, and it's all sectioned off where there's a section when you're in this area you're doing this, when you're in this area you're doing this, and tools don't migrate over.
Yeah. And if you guys have any questions about tech, let us know, and we can have Yaro answer them for you. Yaro, why don't you give
Absolutely.
us your contact information for people if they're interested in contacting you?
Um, sure. The I would say you can shoot us an email. It would be info@yarotech.net, and that would be probably the best way to get in touch with me. Besides our 800 number, which is on our Google Apple page and website.
Okay, nice. Um, what do you see nowadays? I know you do a lot of different things, but is there a certain area that people are focusing on, like whether it's upgrading certain tech, or focusing on a certain type of upgrade or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I could say that. For a while, actually, cameras were so in demand during 2020 or 2021, I forget which exactly year, but at some point cameras were just, I could not get in stock. I had no stock. I had customers waiting for cameras for 6 months. I couldn't get any. Everyone wanted them. I was just trying. As soon as I got a camera that day, we're going out today to put it in because
Yeah.
we could not hold any stock. It was just cameras. Everyone was afraid, and everyone wanted to have a camera to see what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, that's typically true with businesses. Obviously, you need to have a security system. Cameras are the number one thing that you're going to be looking for. Um, and uh, what about um, if somebody wanted to start out, like let's say we had a business, they just got a building, new business startup. Do you have like a checklist of like what you want to go through in terms of running through security, networking, voice over IP, all that stuff? How does that work?
Well, actually, it's a good question because I work with a variety of businesses, essentially, like everywhere from medical to law to retail and so on, and the whole 9 yards. So the idea is every business has their needs, right? And the retail needs are not the same as, let's say, doctor's office, and the doctor's office needs are not the same as, for example, we started a company. One of my customers started a company for 3D printing costumes, custom designed, custom fitted costumes. So he does all the 3D printing from top to bottom, but then he sells those costumes. So the idea is everyone has their own needs, and obviously that guy does not have the same needs as let's say a jewelry store.
Right.
So every time I start talking to, let's say it is a new business. With new businesses, it is about managing the budget because you have to invest into certain things, but you also have to keep the operating budget going, right? So you can't just get all everything at once and everything the best. So you have to figure out where the priorities are, where like this is essential to my business in terms of tech, and this we can hold off for like a 6 months or a year, whatever it is. So it really depends. So essentially, what's your internet's number one key? Do you have enough speed? Do you need to upgrade? Are you overpaying? Do you not barely use internet? And right now you can lower your bill until you get more staff, for example, that will need the higher bandwidth. Then at the same time, let's say it's business. Number Most common thing is network, because if it's a physical location, you want to have the right connection, no matter how small of a business it is. Like you could start off with Wi-Fi, which is totally fine, but the more you think about it, having hardwired everything is an investment towards the future. Because like once you go hardwire, you don't just put in like a couple lines and you're done. Once you're running it, it's way better, cheaper, and better to just run multiple lines ahead of time. Let's say you need two Ethernet lines here, so you just run four to that spot just in case for the future, and that doesn't really add much because you're already
Yeah.
running into that spot.
Right.
So network infrastructure is important. Designing the network stack is important in terms of the router, the Wi-Fi coverage. Even sometimes, let's say the internet for that business, let's say it's retail, it's not the most crucial thing. The most crucial thing for retail would be like cameras, for example. You have to cover your liabilities. Cameras, they're a big help for that, in terms of what happened if something happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in terms of medical places, that's the biggest thing is HIPAA compliance. So I do, for example, HIPAA reporting and HIPAA checks for their network in case, obviously, if they're starting up, they really need it because they can't start operating without the HIPAA report. They also have to file a HIPAA report every year about their facility and if their data is safe. So that's something that follows that business. But essentially, every business owner, business administrator that I talk to, it's all different. But the idea is when you're talking to me, I want to educate and tell what they need to look out for, what's important for them, and then they let them make the final decision. I can just only guide them
Right. Yeah.
towards the what's important.
That's the best part is you can give them their options and say, okay, based on your budget, based on your needs, these are the 2 or 3 options that you can choose. Maybe this is a temporary option just to get by until you have more budget, and then you can upgrade to this next thing, whatever that is, so that people can know where they should spend their money and what makes the most sense
Hmm.
for them. Like you said, it's different for everybody. It's different for every type of business. So understanding what they're giving up, because like you said, like some people think that they need the fastest internet, but maybe the requirements for the stuff that they're doing only needs half of that speed, and then they
Yeah,
can spend that money on something else that they might need
yeah,
instead of wasting it.
and I of course take into consideration, like in terms of the budget and the amount of money that they really essentially want to spend is, do you really need to spend this right now? I don't just take into consideration what's the best right now for you, but also take into consideration what's the best way to manage your money in terms of your IT infrastructure as well.
Yeah, that's always helpful because you know, I've talked to a lot of other tech people that just want to sell you a specific item for whatever reason, whether it's the best or whatever's easier for them, whatever is convenient, I guess. And that's different than your approach.
Yeah, what you actually, I was going to add to what you said, it's about the commission and which item gets you the best commission, which I don't directly work like that. I just work for what's best for the customer, not what's best on my commission line.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why you get a lot of referrals and get again by your current clients to come back in to do other stuff that's needed at the time that they can afford to do the next step.
Yeah, actually, I thought of an example that I just remembered that I did. Like for example, the gym at a gym, you'd say a brand new gym opening up. Um, what's an essential there for no other business, but for a gym, a very big essential is speaker system. Where I don't think a speaker system's is that priority on at a law office, for
Right,
example,
right.
right? So I can give some. So when I met with this brand new gym, I gave him some options where like you could spend this much, and essentially this is not the best option. You will need to upgrade eventually because this is what's working for your budget. But sometimes you have to, when it's like a core of the business, like in terms of the IT, like speakers are always going to be there at the business. You're not going to
Right.
get away from it. So sometimes I tell them right away, this doesn't make sense to go low now and upgrade later because this you will always need the best in terms
Right.
of this part. Where like if you, for example, get the front office computer or something, do you really need the best computer for the front office? No,
No.
absolutely not. That's why it's like, no, this doesn't make sense. Let's get you what you actually need.
Right. You could probably get away with a refurbished $200 computer at the
Absolutely,
front desk nowadays.
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, especially like now, I mean, my kids are at the age where they're old enough to be able to use a computer on their own. They can read, you know, they have the hand-eye coordination to be able to use it type of thing. And I bought them a computer off of Amazon. It was $150. I upgraded the hard drive to a solid state drive. Now it's fast enough for them to be able to use it for, go on the internet, play a couple games, learn how to type, so the basic stuff that they need. They don't need much more than that. So I can't imagine needing that much more than
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
for that.
Unless you're like a video editing company, which does need like
Yes.
some high end
Yeah.
stuff, but like every computer has a purpose. So, for example, when the person at the desk is working, depending on what they're doing on there, let's say it's the owner of the company, they would want to get some. I would want to recommend something better for them because I know they're going to be running a lot of things at the same time. Because as business owners,
Yes.
we wear a lot of hats, and we don't want to have anything go slow or stall and
Right.
take that time from us.
Right.
Where like it's their assistant, for example, or their secretary, or the front desk or something like that. We can get them something more appropriate to what their workload is.
Right.
Um, Anything, basically anything. One of my insurance customers calls himself Tailored Insurance. So that I thought about that name, and if I think about it, it's tailored IT, because IT is supposed to be twofold. It's supposed to be tailored to your business, and it's supposed to be an investment. Those are the two factors that I consider IT to be for a business. IT, an investment, and it's tailored to you. You don't just, for example, I walked into one business one time, and they got handed to them this huge system that they paid like 20 grand for. And and then once I came in, I'm like, you don't need anything here. You really don't need anything. This All of this was sold to you.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
for what or why. So essentially, yeah, I made sure they got, and they weren't even utilizing it. That was the problem, and they didn't really have that need to utilize it. But I figured out how to make use of it after I got in there, because it was already paid for and set up, but just not being used because
Yeah.
they never needed it.
Yeah. That's the hard part. That's the same thing now with technology. Back in the day when I was in college, they gave us really nice, powerful laptops, which was great for us to do our schoolwork. But then you have 30 engineering students with powerful laptops and fast internet, and we just started playing games with each other using these computers.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because what else are you gonna do with
Engineers.
it? Yeah. So no, definitely. And now we've gotten to the age where most computers, I mean, for $500 you can get a nice computer that is capable of just being smooth for doing basic mediocre, like routine tasks that you need to use it for. But you, like you said, for when you are doing multiple things as a business owner. So for me, I had my laptop, it was working fine. The battery life was not the best, so I needed to upgrade purely for the battery. But I'm usually a value person, like I don't need the top of the line tech. I want it, but it's more expensive than what I need. And
Sure.
even for the stuff that I'm doing right now for my business, the laptop that I got is more powerful than what I need. But people were telling me, and it kind of made sense for me, is like, okay, one, I don't usually get myself the best top of the line stuff in tech for myself. And then second, I'm using it for my business, so I get it for I get a tax deduction on it, and then also I'm using it for my business. So like now it's very nice for me to be able to press the power button. Like sometimes I'm on my way out the door and a client calls me and they say, I need blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can turn the computer on from being powered off completely, get on the internet, send them whatever it is within like 30 seconds. Like this is crazy for us to be able to do this. Before, when I used to work at an engineering company a while ago, they used to tell us to turn our computers off overnight, and I would leave it on because it would take 30 minutes to an hour to boot up and get to a state where I can start using it. And now it's completely different, and that's awesome to me for how much the technology has changed.
Well, that goes back to what you said about solid state drives. Is it really changed in terms of speed? What you mentioned, how you upgraded how you upgraded your computer to SSDs.
Yeah,
That's the difference. Where the old drives would spin and spin and spin. The thing is, you leave it on overnight, right? Well, that when people did it with those computers back in the day, where they left it on, and imagine the whole time it's on, the thing is actually never taking a break. Like
yeah,
imagine like your engine, and when you park your car and you
it's
leave your
idling.
car
Yeah,
on and you go to sleep.
yeah,
So that was the hard drive that it
exactly.
was doing that. So
Yeah,
it's a lot different with the solid state drives with no moving parts, because there's nothing moving in the new drives, so nothing actually physically wears out anymore like they used to. um I just actually read about some news A company just came out with because I like my number one thing during the day is I take in a lot of information, new, old updates all the time. So
Yeah.
one of the thing I read yesterday was a company's coming out with a new drive that's supposed to take over hard drives completely
Oh yeah.
by having a solid state hard drive with 61 terabytes
Oh wow.
terabytes on a single
Wow, that's
laptop size
crazy.
drive. So the idea is obviously if they can get up to 61 terabytes, they can go down to something more usable at a
Yes.
very reasonable cost. So hard drives are going away.
Oh, nice. Awesome. We have a question. However, I feel like I'm going to answer this question on the side afterwards. So Kelly Blaine, if you can text me or email me, um, I will have a reminder to get back with you on that. I won't be able to answer it right now, but I will get back to you when I get a chance. Just remind me to do that. Um, no, that's crazy. I mean, the technology is crazy because
Exactly.
I was watching this movie yesterday with my daughters. It's called Hidden Figures. I don't know if you've seen it.
I heard of it.
Yeah. So it's about these three African American women that were working for NASA back in the 60s.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's funny because they showed them getting an IBM computer, and the IBM computer is the size of a whole room. And I was trying to explain to my kids that that whole machine is one computer that, could barely do what a calculator does right now. And it took a while for me to get that through.
Though, don't you think it's kind of interesting how, if you think about it, we start off with rooms, giant rooms or factories taking up one computer processing space, and then we started shrinking them down so far, and it goes full circle. We started shrinking them down so far that they became so small they're in the palm of our hand. But now the actual computers are bigger than the whole warehouse because they are data servers,
Yeah.
and our computers are actually the cloud now because most of the apps, most of the things you do on your laptop, you mostly go to Chrome and you do your
Yeah.
stuff on the Chrome, but that's not really your computer doing anything. That's it connecting to a huge room that's a giant computer
Yes.
that's called a data server somewhere at a cloud basically facility like Google, mostly Google or AWS taking up most of the internet.
Yeah.
But right now we started off with a room as a computer, and now we're back to now we're at a warehouse at a computer, but it's not nowhere near you.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just remoting it, and it's outsourced. We outsource the computing to a giant server farm.
Yep. And eventually that's going to become smaller, and then they're going to
We'll see.
maximize the capacity.
That's a
Hey,
good
hey,
question though.
Tawana, that's thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't know what time is it. Are we good? Yeah. Okay. That's good. Thank you. Um, I yeah, it goes back in phases, right? Like you're gonna shrink down the technology, but then you're gonna expand it for the next thing, and then shrink that down, and then expand it for the next thing, and that's just basically how it's gonna be.
Well, yeah, essentially you can't match the processing capacity of the data center. And the data center will run like one data center, let's say it's running YouTube or Twitter, and there's a lot of data centers, and they're all working together for you to be able to click on any video. And there's I don't quote me on it. I think it's like 12 years of video uploaded every hour on YouTube. Don't quote me on the exact
Wow,
numbers. I forgot the
that
exact,
is
but it's
crazy.
somewhere around there. But and then you as the user can click it, and that stream can go right into the palm of your hand, and that's all done by the data center in the
Yeah,
background. So the computers are still there. We just can't see them because they're in the big warehouse and they're using up a lot of power, but they are still there. They're working. So computers started with a room, still in a room, but not near, nowhere near us.
yeah. That's awesome. Um, so what kind of stuff do you like to do on the side other than the tech stuff? I mean, I know like for me, I can't get away from tech. It's always tech, but
Yeah, good question. Because it's tech.
yeah,
Like I have fun with tech. That's why I do what I do because I enjoy what I do,
yeah,
and it's hard to get away from it. Even like for fun, like you try to basically there's parts that I look up, there's parts that I buy that are completely for the business, and there's there's personal toys that I like to get. Like, oh, I don't really need this, but this is a cool gadget,
Yeah.
and this cool gadget is fun.
Yeah.
That's still for fun. But in terms of not tech stuff, I this is the typical stuff. I love mountain biking, doing trails, basketball, and just basically those are the three physical activities
Yeah.
I do. That's it.
Yeah. So which trails do you usually go to around here?
Around here, I like the Metro Park. This the Link St. Clair Metro Park.
Okay.
That's close to here. But one of my favorite trails is there's one in it's all the way on the west side. It's in West Bloomfield,
Okay.
and it's an interesting trail because it technically starts in Pontiac, and it's one trail, and it goes all the way from Pontiac down through West Bloomfield and all the way into Livonia.
Oh,
This is a one single trail, and it goes through like I don't know, like 7 cities, like in
nice.
between.
Nice. I'm gonna
And
have to check that one out.
that one is very far, but like there's a midpoint. The midpoint is in West Bloomfield, and if you go right, it's you're going all the way to the Pontiac. If you go left, you go all the way down to Livonia.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good exercise thing to do. Where do you play basketball? I play basketball once a week with my friends.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, same here. I don't know. Usually at a park when it's nice and warm.
So like on a day like today,
Yeah.
yesterday, there's been this heat wave that we got.
Oh,
It's
this
been
heat wave.
awesome.
Yeah, we're not that warm nowadays. So like I don't know when it's winter time, it kind of the physical activities
Yeah.
slow down a lot for
Yeah.
me, obviously.
Yeah, it's hard. We play indoors basketball, so we go year round. So that's the only good thing about it is that we can play like that. So um
Yeah, I guess I try to take advantage of the sun while it's the sun and the warmth while
yeah.
it's there, because isn't there like something like um the sunlight actually, if like it raises your serotonin levels, makes you happier.
Yeah, vitamin D. Yeah,
Yeah, so
definitely.
that's what I take advantage of when we have those warm days. The summertime is my physical outdoor activity time.
Yeah, I gotta get my kids involved. It's hard because my son is a little bit younger, but I need to put a basketball room up so that I can play basketball
Mhm.
with them, or just be outside and active with something that we can do together that they're interested in, and uh, other than just going to the park. Then it keeps me involved instead of like
A
playing.
a little bit more involved, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, is there anything else that you were kind of wanting to share with us with the Yaro Tech business or one of the other businesses that you're part of?
Um, yeah, I guess I could talk about besides Yaro Tech, I also I also hold a CTO position for SafeWash 20, safewash.com, which is a hardware company. It's a hand washing device, and it's ideally for every business that wants to make sure the community is safe and wants to make sure their customers and everyone around is washing their hands for 20 seconds, because isn't that I think that's how I think it's funny that's because that's how they figured out the bubonic plague or something. They didn't know where it was coming from because no one knew they had to wash their hands
Oh, wow.
back then in the Middle
Okay.
Ages. They didn't know hand washing was related to They didn't know germs existed
I
yet,
see. Okay.
and they didn't know that by washing hands you actually prevent getting sick.
Okay.
So they didn't even know they had to wash their hands before surgery. They just go in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so making sure everyone washes their hands for 20 seconds, that 20-second mark, the CDC guideline, or it's always been the thing since I was a kid, is the perfect amount of time for you to scrub everything away. And it's a business device that has a lot of features besides the 20 seconds for the businesses where like some regulations require you to have a 60-second. It will count it. It will play the music. It will show. Basically, it will make sure everything psychologically, that time goes down way faster than than it actually is.
Okay.
It's like a psychological glitch almost, like when you're looking at the time visually and you're listening to the time, and then it's actually the seconds feel faster if you count it yourself in your head
Okay.
than when you're actually seeing it. Actually slow. it actually goes faster than when you were just counting. And I
see.
ran this test many times, and it's pretty interesting. It's like if I use the device, it's like, oh, that was 20 seconds. That felt like maybe 4, 7, maybe
Yeah.
max. But like if you don't use the device, like 1, 2, 3, 4, then
Yeah.
it's like this is gonna take forever. I
Right.
don't. No one wants to watch that.
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
seconds. But as a hardware company, and then the other business I am CTO for is Light Tuition. We are a software company, and we focus also on the community and raising funding and tuition for students to pay for their degrees, because obviously tuition's high, and crowdfunding has been viable for many things, such as our Kickstarters and stuff like that. So why not a Kickstarter to kickstart your career?
Yeah. No, those are two great things that we as a community need in terms of staying safe and being able to afford higher education. I think that's something that can go a long way in terms of improving businesses and the quality of life for people. So definitely, is that one? Are both of them out right now or not yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are those two websites again? Are they both websites?
Yep.
Yeah.
Safewash.com. We are taking pre-orders, and lighttuition.com. We are also taking orders for the platform for, like, let's say organizations and let's say churches, community leaders that want to set up their own crowdfunding, because obviously we can't reach
Right.
every nook and cranny in the world, but there are people in those communities that can reach those communities, so they can actually take our platform and put it out there for themselves, and then they can reach those communities that because they're closer than us.
Yeah. No, I see. Yeah. So, um, that's a cool way to use your skill set to improve other businesses. Like what we were talking about earlier is, as a tech company, people come to you for advice on certain aspects of tech in their business. And then when you get there, if they need something else, they'll point it out to you and say, hey, can you take a look at this? It's not working well, whatever. And you can help them out with that. But also using your skill set to be able to develop these two products is really awesome. And that's a good way to get out of doing the same thing for everybody, but in different areas, right?
Yeah.
Um, so why don't you tell us again how you can get a hold of you, for Yaro Tech, for the other two companies again, and then so people can know that.
Sure. Yaro with Yaro Tech. That's my slogan. We're your one-stop shop for all your technology needs. That's on the business card, and you can reach us at Yaro Tech. info@yarotech.net. The safewash.com is the website for my hardware product, and light tuition .com is the website for our light tuition platform, where you can where you can get the platform for your organization.
Awesome. So there you have it. If you need anything with tech, cameras, computers, 3D printing, whatever you need, you can call Yaro and he can help you out. Thank you again, Yaro, for joining us on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
And again, for all of your estate planning needs, you can give me a call or contact me by email. My phone number is 248-914-8146. And my email address is joe@dalloestateplanning.com. And thank you again for joining us on this episode of Joe Knows. Joe knows, so you don't have to.